Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Rob here. Welcome to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. On today's show, we have a very special guest. His name is Dylan Novak. You can find him on Instagram at the Celebrity Evangelist. Dylan, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us.
Hey, thank you, Rob. I appreciate the time.
No, for sure. So, like I said, guys, yeah, you can check him out on Instagram at Celebrity Evangelist. You can also check out his website, celebrityevangelist.org. And before I start off here with some questions for you, Dylan, I want to read the mission statement you have on your website. I thought it was super cool. So here it is. So it says, "My ministry is to share the gospel with everyone I meet, and many of the people I meet are what this world calls celebrities. It's a forgotten field. As Christians, many of us have written off Hollywood completely. We've told ourselves that there's no hope for these souls and that it's pointless to even think about praying for them." So yeah, I wanted to start off with that, man, because I just first of all it speaks like to how big your heart is, how good of a soul you have. And I do think, yeah, what you're doing, you're just trying to help these people who, like you said, many people criticize them. They they talk down on them. And at the end of the day, they're human beings just like the rest of us, and none of us are perfect, right? So
Exactly.
we're all born sinners. So I just wanted to start off with that because I just think it's amazing, man. And yeah, like what would you say inspired you to start this whole mission that you're on right now?
So I am a huge superhero pop culture nerd. I got to go to a comic convention back when I was 13. One of the celebrities that I was going to get to meet there, get an autograph of, I found out was an atheist. And that broke my heart because that's when reality hit me that she is a soul just like you, just like me, just like anybody watching who's on her way to heaven or hell. And because she had never put her faith and trust in Jesus as her personal Lord and Savior, I knew where she was heading. So I prayed and asked God, please send somebody to tell her about your son, to tell her about Jesus before it's eternally too late. And God really convicted my heart. What about you? You're going to be right in front of her. And after playing Jonah for a couple of days, I finally said, all right, God, I'll do whatever it is you want me to do. And so from about ages 13 to 20, I'd meet whoever I wanted to meet. But then back in 2015, we're approaching the 10-year anniversary. That's when I just fully surrendered my life to the Lord. I was saved when I was 8 years old, but I kept holding on to my selfish desires, what I wanted to do. But that's when I said, all right, God, I'll do whatever it is you want me to do. You want me to preach, you want me to evangelize, whatever it is. I'm yours. And since then, the doors God has opened has been unbelievable. That's how I came to know my wife. That's why I'm here at the church where I'm a youth pastor at now. And I just can't imagine where my life would be if I hadn't followed God.
Nah, I love that, man. I love all of that, and like you've met people, like all the way from A+ listers, you could call them, all the way
Yeah,
the people that are like on some random TV show, right? And
right.
I just love that you're so open. You're so open minded. You're willing to help any one of these people. I know you met Tom Cruise, and obviously we all know the story of him. Sadly that he's a big part of Scientology. He's been
Yeah.
part of it for a long time now. So yeah, I kind of wanted to get into that because I know I've read like some of your comments on like meeting him.
Mhm.
You met him at a movie premiere, and it sounded kind of crazy. How how many
Yeah.
people were around and stuff like that. So how was that whole experience like meeting Tom Cruise?
Yeah, so it's funny if you look at the picture of me with Tom, it's just sheer chaos behind us. It's hilarious. And then you have and I and I don't always point this out. Over here to my left, there's like this really creepy looking guy just smiling at the camera, and that's my friend Eric. Just decided to photobomb. I'm like, you decided to photobomb my photo with Tom Cruise, man? Come on, that ain't cool. But it's not overly noticeable if you're not looking for it. So yeah, he did a movie premiere. I was able to go to it. I was able to get a ticket. Usually the way this event is, people would show up at like 7. The event starts at 7. People would show up at like 6:50 or so, run the red carpet within 5-10 minutes, um, and then go to the press room. Tom showed up about 4:30. Like the doors opened to like get in line at 4, which I'd been there hours earlier just to be safe. And that's why I was right on the fence. And then at 4:30, this car pulls up, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder who this is." And it was Tom, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And he spent over almost 3 hours signing autographs, taking photos, went above and beyond anything I've seen an A-list star do.
Oh, wow.
Um, And what he told everyone, he said, I want everybody to walk away with an autograph and or photo. So he said, you come, you get what you want, and then move back, let somebody else up. And then when it came to 7 o'clock, he was like, premieres are for fans. That's mostly why I'm here. So I'm going to, until I finish taking care of them, I'm not going to the media. So I thought that was an incredible class act move. You don't see that often. He has Scientology bodyguards with him, and those bodyguards aren't necessarily just to protect him physically, they're there to protect him mentally, because a lot of people don't realize that Tom is like number two in Scientology. The main guy whose name is completely, I've been trying to think of it ever since you mentioned Tom. I can't think of it right now, but he's the true evil in Scientology. Tom is the pawn. If they lose Tom, they everything's probably just going to become unraveled. So that's why they go above and beyond to try to protect him. So he was just, the bodyguards were just like coming through, making sure nobody had anything to harm him or to really give him. So I had a poster and I just held the poster over the gift. And then when they looked under the poster, they didn't see the gift.
Wow.
Um, but the thing is, those bodyguards are not number two. So Tom technically is over them. And so once the gift was in Tom's hands, it was completely up to him what happened with it, which is how I want it to always be. That's why I don't hand off a gift to somebody else. If it doesn't get in their hand, that's a failed mission, so to speak. But he took the time to look at it. He expressed to me how incredibly kind he thought it was. I told him I really love and care about you. He carried that gift with him the entire premiere. I saw him get in the car with it like 2 hours later. So that was an encouraging moment.
Wow. Nah, that's amazing, and to hear that he took all that time, right?
Right.
To be with fans and to take the pictures, like that makes it even more sad for me. Like that he's in Scientology because
Yeah.
you know that alone, like giving his time to the people who who
Well, your
want
time
to
is
give
the
it.
most valuable thing you can give anybody.
Amen. Not 100%. So the fact that he does that with his fans, I hope that one day he's able to get out of Scientology. And yeah, because it doesn't seem like he's just like terrible guy. You know
No,
what I'm
he's
saying?
he's not a bad guy at all. And that's the sad thing that. And I was talking to a guy about this just last week after I met Post Malone. He was like, "It just breaks my heart to think somebody as good as him, as sweet as him, could be lost." And I was like, "Exactly." I said, "But here's the thing: we got to stop and pause and look at." Our standard of good is different than God's standard. God's standard is absolute perfection. Our standard of good is I'm better than that guy. I'm better than Rob. You could say you're better than me, whatever that may be. And of course, none of us are perfect. None of us are going to reach that perfect standard that God has. That's why we need Jesus. That's why we need Christ. And once we stop, if we start and look at things in the aspect of, oh well, I'm good, so that means it's like, okay, so does that make you God? It's just, it makes you really stop and think. But I completely agree with you. It's like, man, it breaks your heart more when you see those sweet good people like Tom.
No, for sure. And yeah, to go back to a couple of your points there. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. So the leader of Scientology, I'm pretty sure is David Miscavige, right? Is that?
That's it.
I'm pretty sure
That's it.
that's him. And then yeah, you're saying how you gifted Tom, right, a gift, and yeah, that's something I wanted to bring up. You give all these celebrities Bibles. A lot of them, they're like personalized with their names, and I love all your posts. Honestly, even if I've never heard of a celebrity or I'm a fan of them, I just think it's so cool that you're taking the time to just try to help these people at the end of the day find God like that. That's
That's
your
it.
goal, and I think that's super cool. So yeah, how does that usually go for you? Like what's that like for you to be able to give these people the Bible and try to open their hearts and open their minds?
Yeah, well, it's different for different people, the same as it is how I may present the gospel tonight at my youth group to one student might be different than the other student. I'm not changing the message, but I'm changing the approach. Um, every personality is different. The main way that try to start a conversation is um, I 9 times out of 10, I won't say I got you a gift because that can, that can freak someone out. That can scare them. It's a messed up world we live in. I have personally seen people handed very weird gifts. I managed the voice of Charlie Brown for a while. We went to some different Comic Cons, and some of the
Wow.
gifts that he got, I was just like. Come on, y'all. Which again, I can't help but stop and think, because Peter Robbins is by no means an A-list actor. He was a great man. He was a sweet man, but he wasn't famous. So I'm like, if somebody who's not famous gets these weird gifts, imagine what the A-listers get. Um, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll say, I'll go the fan approach. Can I get a photo with you? Can I get an autograph? Depends on the setting. And then once you start engaging in a conversation and they realize, oh, this person's not crazy, that's when, hey, I got you this gift. I wrote you this fan letter. And the purpose of the letter is to say everything I'd like to say in person, but I may not have the time because sometimes I'll have 5 seconds with somebody. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. You just never know. And I always include my contact information at the back of the material if anybody wants to reach out to me, which several have. And so by giving them that gift, and there's the letter, they see the Bible and whatever else I may have in there, that is the door for them to walk in. Or am I going to have a conversation with this person, or am I not going to have a conversation with this person? And I respect either way, because I think Tim Allen said it best. He's a very kind man, but Tim said, he said, I appreciate that you're not pressuring me to have a conversation. I said, no, no, not at all. He said, Jerry Seinfeld once said, being on TV and being in the movies is like having a one-way relationship with somebody because you're watching interviews, you're watching movies, you love these characters, you've invited them, and we've invited Tom Cruise into our home. We've invited Denzel Washington, whoever it may be, but they don't know us at all. We are just total strangers. And so many people have the approach of, this is my friend. It's like, no, you're scary. But he said, I appreciate that you respect that boundary of, I don't know you, so I'm not comfortable having this intimate conversation with you right now. I said, and I completely get that. And I think another reason for that is everybody is looking to exploit celebrities in some way, shape, or form to try to make a profit off of them, to try to get gain. I've had some people say the reason I have my ministry page is because I want people to look at me and think I'm cool. That's not the case at all. Um, for a good while at the very beginning of the ministry, I didn't even want to post photos. I didn't want to post anything because I didn't want somebody to get that wrong idea. But some very godly people in my life that were in my intimate circle within church were like, no, because one, you need people to be praying, and two, that's going to open more doors for people to know who you are, to say, hey, I have this tip. I mean, like Post Malone last week. Post Malone 100% would not have happened if it weren't for this guy that knows who I am through ministry. And he reached out to me and was like, hey, I've got this tip. And he said, the only catch is if you meet him, you got to blur the background. It's a very down low location. He frequents here a lot, but I want you to get the gospel to him. So, and again, it's so weird because again, like Post Malone, he was not at a public event. He was just hanging out with some friends. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. How did I know you were here? But the sad reality is they're so used to it. Like it's not even abnormal for somebody to come off a plane and see a bunch of people waiting on them. It's just like, it's the life I live. It's a weird atmosphere. It's a weird circle. But I'm just so grateful for the doors God's opened and how many people, again, not this is no disrespect to Tim Allen. I'm so thankful for the people who do want to have conversations.
No, for sure, and I love that you had the opportunity to meet Post Malone because I feel like he has such a special and like kind soul and a big heart.
Oh my goodness. One of the sweetest guys. He's a big guy. I didn't realize how tall he was because I'm right at 6 feet. My wife will tell you I'm not 6 feet. My driver's license says I am, so that's what I go with. But yeah, I thought he was shorter, and I was like, oh no, nope, you're tall.
I didn't know he was that tall, honestly. But no, he's awesome. He's great, and now something I love that you do. It kind of gives me ideas as well because, like, thankfully I've been able to attend different conventions and do like meet and greets.
Oh
But
yeah,
sometimes I want to have like some sort of a conversation, but obviously that's not really the time and place for like a deep conversation. So
right.
that idea that you do, writing those letters and putting your contact information, I
Hmm.
feel like in general that could inspire fans to, that gives us all a good idea. If
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, these conventions and stuff, it's a lot of people waiting in line. It's not really the time and place. Like you're not there to hang out with this celebrity. You're kind of there to shake hands and take a picture. And
right.
I find that super cool. I think that's an amazing idea.
Yeah, and it's just so great because uh, some of my I will say this, some of my favorite conversations have happened at Comic Cons, but you have to, like you were saying, you got to read the room. If there's a line 2 hours long behind you, it's not going to happen. If it is going to happen, you're rude. It's you just gotta. I mean, there's a couple times that somebody will keep talking, and I'm like, hey, as long as you're open to talking, but I'm not going to be the person like I'm sticking my foot in the ground. But there was this one guy, his name's Lewis McLeod. I guarantee you, nobody for the most part that's watching your podcast, and you included, and myself included, until 5 years ago, would have been like, who in the world is Lewis McLeod? And he's one of those D-listers. He played Sebulba in Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I research every celebrity before I meet them. Like, have they said something? What's their views on God, religion? So just so I mentally know what I'm coming into. And there was nothing on him. There was absolutely nothing. The main reason I did go to meet him, I was like, well, I'm going to share the gospel with him. Also, big Star Wars fan. I want to meet him. And there was no line for him. And we started this crazy in-depth conversation to the point he asked me to pull up a chair. And anytime a fan would walk up, he would pause. He would meet the fan as long as they wanted to talk, and then we'd go right back to our conversation. We talked for almost 3 hours.
Wow.
And he was, and I really was excited to talk to him again. And that was in 2019. I was excited to talk to him again in 2020. And then this crazy thing called COVID happened, and that event got canceled. But he's coming back to the States this summer for a show, so I'm hoping to catch up with him there. So you never know. If God is wanting somebody to be open, I really believe they will find it in their heart to be like, let's figure out a way to make this conversation happen.
I love that, and I love that story specifically. And yeah, something I want to ask you too, like, what gives you like the calmness, or I guess that's what you could call it, like to not be nervous, because sometimes like we could be fans of these people, obviously, but
Mhm.
it's normal to have these like butterflies in our stomach or these nerves. What would you say like gives you that like confidence or like no fear to just go up to these people?
Wouldn't say there's no fear. It's still there sometimes. I will
Okay.
say I think God has blessed me with a great adrenaline boost, and when those moments happen, like a couple years ago when I had an opportunity to meet Harrison Ford in a very low key situation, um, and I truly through my 13-year-old mind is like, that's Indiana Jones, that's Han Solo, but ultimately it's like I have to have the mindset that is a man who claims he's a Buddhist who doesn't know Jesus, and that's where my focus needs to stay. That being said, I still, when I walked up to him, I shook his hand, I said, I just want to say thank you for an amazing childhood. I want to say that right off the bat. Um, but I really believe that when we surrender ourselves to the Holy Spirit, we're still going to be nervous, but the Holy Spirit is going to be there within us, calming us, giving us the words to say. Like I said, not saying you're not going to flub up, not saying you're not going to be Billy Graham, but you have to remember it's God's word that is going to change someone in their heart and life, not your words. So my advice to people and my advice to my students, when my students are like, well, how do you share the gospel better? Just say, God, that my life is about you. My life isn't about me. Because I don't think I've ever met somebody who is an evangelist, a preacher, who is like, I wanted to do this because I wanted to. No, everybody was called, and they're like, oh, this isn't like, tonight is student led night at my church. One of my students, who his entire testimony is bizarre and crazy, how God has just saved him. And I mean, all of our testimonies are great, but this kid was like as far from Jesus as you get. And 2 years ago, now God's working on him to be a preacher, and he's preached a couple of times. Um, that being said, when he started feeling called to preach, was not like, oh boy, it was like, hey, this is uncomfortable. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. People are going to see you differently, people are going to look at you differently, people are going to treat you differently, act differently around you, but you have to remember it's about him, it's not about you. When we live for us, we are going to fail every single time, but when we live for him, that's when we will succeed.
Wow, such a powerful line, and I think it's something a lot of us at times we forget. uh,
Yeah.
throughout different situations that happen, whether it's something good happening, something bad. We always got to remember we're doing it for him. So that's amazing to hear. But yeah, no, I wanted to ask you too, like, 'cause I know recently on Instagram, you've kind of put stories here and there, telling people to like kind of message you if there's anyone specific that they want you to like, reach out to.
Yeah.
Um, by any chance, are there like as of recent time, are there any like specific people whose names get sent to you like more than others?
Oh goodness. Billie Eilish pops up a lot. Which she's somebody my wife and I really, really would love to talk to. She seems like such a sweet girl. Um, and just she seems to realize that there's something more to life than just this life. Um, one comment that was said to me, this is just off topic, when I met this guy, Murr from Impractical Jokers. He's an atheist.
That's cool.
I love
I,
I love the Impractical Jokers. Um, but
that's
Murr,
dope.
he's an atheist, and we had a really nice conversation at a convention. And he told me one of the last things he told me, and it stuck with me. He said, "I really hope you're right. I really hope there's more to life than this because this life sucks." And I was like, "That's it. This life is not that great when you really stop and break it down." And I think even Billy sees that. My wife and I, we were in New York City last year when she was supposed to be promoting her new album. And I was really excited to have a couple opportunities to get in front of her. Unfortunately, though, she pre-recorded everything 2 weeks in advance. She's very sneaky, and I was like, "Dang it!" But she gets sent to me a lot. I'd say her name pops up a lot. It's interesting. Justin Bieber gets put there a lot, and the reason I say it's interesting is because he's a self-professing born again Christian. I don't necessarily agree with everything in his life, and that's the same can be said about anybody. But his basis of faith, like what he says he believes, I'm like, yeah, it seems if what you're saying is what you believe, you seem like you've got it together in that regard. I'm trying to think. Um, a lot of times it's just general. People are like heavy metal artists or rappers, that kind of thing.
Okay. Now I love the two names you mentioned there, specifically Billy and Justin Bieber. Now I'm a big
Mhm.
fan of both of them.
Oh
They're
yeah, they're
both
great.
they're like two of the biggest artists of their generation, right? And
Oh,
they
without a
have
doubt.
and they're two individuals that like when I see them in interviews and stuff like that, I really like them. They just seem like really nice people.
Hmm.
So especially like Justin Bieber, I always throughout his like all the tough times he had, when he got arrested for DUI, all the stuff he went through, I would always like try to put myself in his perspective because like
Exactly.
you could only imagine what he went through as a young kid. He was in Canada. He had to move in here with Scooter Braun, with Usher. Literally, his parents sent him here. He was living with these random men, and we really don't know what he's gone through. And the same with
Yeah,
Billy. And
exactly. Well, I mean,
it's
I keep thinking back to that one interview where Justin was saying he doesn't want Billy to go through the same things he did. I think there's a lot behind the scenes there that's not come to light.
100%. And I noticed too, he kind of like he's a big fan of Tate McRae, who's like up and coming,
Yeah,
she's a fellow Canadian artist like him. So I'm sure he's worried about all these young artists. He doesn't want them all to go through what he's gone through. And
exactly.
another one of these artists that I'm a huge fan of. I've never really heard her talk about her faith or anything like that. I do know she has family members who are in Scientology. Sabrina Carpenter. That's someone who I think about because yeah, I want someone to get to her. Obviously, I would love for you to get to her because she seems like such a special person, and I just hope she's not around the wrong people. The wrong adults
Exactly.
around that are leading her in the wrong direction.
Yeah, because she's still pretty young to the scene. And of course she's been in the entertainment world since the Disney Channel days. I like you said, I've not heard her ever really talk about her faith, anything in that regard. Um, and I always encourage anybody who follows my ministry this too. Anytime you see an interview of somebody, no matter who it is, talking about Jesus, talking about religion, send it my way. Because one, I like to share it on my stories to get other people realizing, hey, this is what these people are going through. Here's where their mindset is. But also, it's good for me to kind of store that information for down the road. Um, until you had, I remember you messaging me about her having family members in Scientology. I was unaware of that until you mentioned that. But yeah, I would love to reach her. I know she's doing a tour later this year. I don't know how accessible that tour will be, but we'll see. I'm praying that God will continue to open the doors that He wants to be opened.
No, amen. But yeah, I know it's her aunt actually. She's actually an actress. She's on The Simpsons. She does a couple voices there. I know she's high up there supposedly in Scientology. But yeah, there's someone else too specifically. I want to ask you about. This might be kind of random to people. She's not an A-lister, but she's been around for a while. Danielle Panabaker. I know you met her
Yes.
recently. Um, yeah, I'm a really big fan of her. I saw her in person at a convention here in Miami like years ago. I didn't go up to her, but she's just someone I've always followed since I was a kid. So yeah, what was that like? Like,
So yeah, that was an interesting encounter. That was at MegaCon in Orlando. So not
oh
too
wow,
far from you. Um,
wow,
but because I live up here in East Tennessee, but I come to Florida fairly often. That's where my wife's family's from.
oh
Um,
nice.
but it was MegaCon. I don't know if you've ever been to MegaCon. It's mega. It's huge. It's overwhelming. She actually had written on her table, "I have laryngitis, and I'm so sorry I can't talk." And
Oh
so
wow.
that was an interesting encounter just because I was like, I still want to say something. I'm a talkative person, but she looked at the gift. She got a pen and she wrote on the table, "Thank you," and a big smiley face. And after we took the photo, she whispered to me, "Thank you very much for the gift." I mean, there wasn't a lot to that story. I wish I could have had more time to talk to her. She seems like a very sweet person.
Okay, that's what I get. I've always sensed that she's like a really sweet person. But yeah, so speaking of those conventions, like I've heard of MegaCon, like I've never been. Is there like a specific convention you would say that happens yearly that have been like your favorite or you've had like the best moments at?
Mm. I always immediately divert to Still City Con in Pittsburgh, Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Um, I love the people who run that show. They're very, very kind people. They've treated me and my family very well through the years. They run a very efficient show. Like I've gone to some conventions that it is a dumpster fire, and their show is, when there is a fire, they put it out, and they put it out very quickly. Um, and that show happens 3 times a year. It's actually happening next weekend, but I'm going to be in DC. I'm usually at Still City Con though. I love Superhero Comic Con in San Antonio. The reason I love it is everything is on a very strict schedule. Like you have your autograph ticket or your photo ticket, whatever, and you have a time frame to go over there, and it's not oversold, it's not super rushy. Like that's where I met Andrew Garfield, had a very nice conversation with him at his table, like, and again, when I probably 2 minutes, probably talked with him for 2 minutes. It was very nice. um that show's not happening this year. They're doing a sci-fi show later in the fall. I'll look into that. MegaCon is a good one. They really bring in a lot of people you don't typically see, but it's humongous. Locally to me, Fanboy Expo Orlando. That's a good. I mean, not Orlando. Fanboy Expo Knoxville. They do Orlando as well, but the Knoxville show, it's pretty good. I haven't been in a couple years, but I'll be going this year.
Nice. Okay. No, it's funny you brought up Steel City Con because that's one specifically that I really want to go to one day because
It is
it always
great.
like it's amazing and they get a lot of people that I'm like a big fan of and they don't really. It's like people that don't tend to go to conventions. Like I know, like I'm a big Adam Sandler fan, so they
Yes.
like Rob Schneider. A bunch of times over the years. I know like Murr goes. Like you mentioned Murr earlier. I'm a huge Impractical Jokers fan, so that's like one convention that I would really love to go to one day.
I can't recommend it enough. It's very good. Like you said, they bring in people that don't typically do it. And that's always a huge plus because there's a lot of shows that's just like, oh my goodness, I've seen this person 20 times. Again, it's good because I've developed a relationship with some people, but then there's other people, it's just like, okay, okay. But yeah, still CityCon, yes. If you ever go to that, shoot me a message. I'll give you any tips I have, but it's a very well run show.
Nah, sounds awesome. Not yeah. And I wanted to bring up Murr again. Like you said, you mentioned Murr, and yeah, honestly, I love the Impractical Jokers. Have you met any of the other Jokers by any chance?
I've met them all.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
so funny story. I met them all when they were still together. This was back in 2016, 9 years ago. And Sal used to post a picture from his hotel room every single day on tour. And he just so happened to post the sign for the hotel in the background. So I knew where they
Wow.
were. So I just went and
Wow.
sat in the I went and sat in the lobby all day. Murr was constantly in and out. Like that guy, I don't know if he ever stayed in his room. Um, had a good couple conversations with him that day. And then he was really nice. He came up to me and he had the gift and he was like, "Do you have gifts for all of us?" And that was before I knew he was an atheist. He hadn't really said anything like that yet. And I said, "Yeah, I've got a gift for everyone." He goes, "I got you, man." And he gave me their schedule. He was like, "This is what time we're going to be doing this. You need to be here at this time. You'll be able to get everybody." Um,
Wow.
the next person I saw was Sal, and he was kind of off guard. Like, "How'd you know we were here?" And I said, "You posted it." And he goes, "No, I didn't." I said, "Yeah, you did." He pulled out his phone and looked, and he goes, "Oh no!" And he went and deleted the post. Um, but he was nice. Q was rushed, but he was nice. He's the one I really don't have any story with. Um, and Joe is just kind of like bouncing off the walls both times I've met all the Jokers twice except Q. I've not seen him since 2016. But I think the nicest, or I shouldn't say nicest, because that's really, I can't base my encounters who's nicest, who's not. Who's the most fan friendly is definitely Murr and Sal,
Okay.
in my
Nah, that's
in
cool.
my experience at least.
That's cool to know. I met Murr once and Joe once. Like they're both super nice, but it was kind of like a meet and greet type of thing, you know.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and that can go either way. You can either hang out and talk a minute, or it is like cattle. Go go go.
yeah, that was the thing. Like I was able to, say a couple sentences, but it was like a long line too, so I didn't want to like make people wait.
Exactly.
But yeah, so and obviously right now, I want to send my well wishes and stuff to Joe and his family. They're going through extra hard, a difficult time right now. So
Absolutely. I've been thinking that the whole time we've been talking. Anytime we see any scandal like that in social media, whether it's someone you know or somebody who's in the entertainment industry, instead of just slamming them, take a moment, pray for them, because they're going through a lot, and sometimes that can be, whether it's true or not, which we don't know. That's between him and the Lord. Um, it could be the rock bottom that someone's needed to get their life together with God.
no, 100%, man. So yeah, like you said, yeah, we just gotta send extra prayers to him and his family right now, and even to the rest of the guys. They've been friends for
Mhm.
so long. I can only
Absolutely.
imagine what they're going through as well, like inside and mentally, like seeing their brother basically, going through this
Exactly.
tough moment. It's tough for sure. But yeah, no. So to wrap it up here, so yeah, first of all, it's been like a huge honor to be able to talk to
Absolutely,
you.
man.
Like I can't wait, till the day we meet in person. That would be amazing.
Oh, I'm sure if you go to these cons, you'll see me eventually. Once in a while, somebody will just come up behind me and tap me on the shoulder, and they'll recognize me from social media. 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing one of my jean jackets with something written on the back, so I'm pretty easy to spot.
Got you, man. Okay, now okay. So final question. So, yeah, I'm a big comedy guy. I guess you could kind of notice that I
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
Sandler, Rob Schneider, the Jokers.
the
I know
the
you've met,
goats.
yeah, literally the goats. I know you met Jim Carrey, another legend of comedy. So if you want
He's
to talk
the
about
he's the best in my opinion.
how's that experience? I know it was a book signing, right?
Yes, it was a book signing, Atlanta, Georgia, back in 2013. That was before the ministry had really began, but I'd still was taking tracks like gospel material, not little chick tracks like with the scary cartoons, just like something like this with just the gospel inside of it. It was good. He was very kind. I saw him just go out of his way for people. One thing that's just a cool story. I haven't told this story in a long time. It was a children's book. It was how, I think it was called How Roll. It's on my bookshelf over there. How Roland Rolls. So he's sitting in the kids book section. He's signing autographs, and this mom was in line to meet him, and her daughter comes running up to her, And mommy, can I get? It was a pillow pet. That was back when pillow pets had just come out. And she's interrupting her mom while she's meeting Jim. And the mom's just like, "No, honey, not right now." And then the little girl keeps going on, and she's like, "No, honey, we don't have the money for that today." And of course, as a parent, I'm like, you say that sometimes even when you do have money. But Jim Carrey, and he did not do this where a bunch of people were watching. He just did this out of the goodness of his heart. He pulled some money out of his pocket, handed it to the little girl. He said, "You go buy that pillow pet." And she did, and it was just so incredibly kind. I mean, that's just his character. He's one of those people I point to, and I'm like, "You're a good guy." He was very kind to me. There wasn't a big conversation. It was a handshake. "How are you doing? Love you. Thank you for the priceless memories you've given me, my family." The endless quotes. I mean, all of that.
Wow, nah, it's an amazing story, and it speaks to how big his heart is. So that's awesome to hear. I love.
Absolutely.
So yeah, one final one for you here. So, is there anyone specifically, right, that you've been a fan of for a long time? That, let's say, there's like two or three celebrities specifically that you would just like absolutely love, to meet.
Oh, probably Paul McCartney. Um,
Wow,
Paul has forever been my favorite musician. I have tried to meet him 3 times. Um, I've come. I was gonna. I was gonna say I've come as close to him as you and me, and but of course that's a long distance to Miami. But just like from me to my phone, there were 3 of us waiting at the private airport when he flew in one time, and I was wearing one of his solo band shirts, just anything to get someone's attention sometimes. And he slowed the car down enough to say something to each one of us individually. And I was at the very end, and he was like, "I love your shirt," and I had his gift, and I was trying to hand it out at him, which, and again, I understand why he wouldn't necessarily grab it without knowing what it is, especially with the whole John Lennon thing and everything. Um, but yeah, I'd love to meet Paul. If I'm just being honest, I don't see that ever being within the realm of possibility because of who he is. It's just too much. But that when someone asks me who's somebody you're a fan of, you'd love to meet, it's always going to go back to Paul.
nah, I love that, and who knows? Yeah, at the end of the day, right? It's God's plan and God's timing.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what I mean? But yeah, Dylan, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone, make sure to check out Dylan on Instagram at Celebrity Evangelist. You can check out his website, celebrityevangelist.org. And yeah, guys, make sure to keep up with us as well on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_ES. But yeah, Dylan, thank you so much, man.
Hey, thank you so much for your time, Rob. I appreciate you having me on.
No, for sure, man. Until next time, everyone, take care.